Namaskaraha and welcome to all of you to our next session on the yogic life. So the Karapatram that we were reading is what is Dharma, right? So we said that human beings have an infinite desire, and the cosmic entity is the only entity that can satisfy that infinite desire. Nothing in this world, no material object can fulfill that infinite desire, because all the material objects of the world are all limited, right? uh, and we said that the dharma, the unique characteristic of a human being is to attain that infinite. So then also we said that if we have to attain that infinite is Brahma, then we need to understand if Brahma really exists, right? If you have to attain something, then that entity should exist, right? So we were trying to contemplate, does Brahma, whether Brahma exists or not. And in that context, we started to think about, how do we actually perform action? How does every person perform action, right? So in that context, we said that each individual has 10 indriyas, 10 organs, right? 5 sense organs and 5 organs of action, 5 jnanendriyas and 5 karmendriyas. So with those indriyas we perform the action. But also we said that just having the indriyas is not sufficient, but if the mind does not work with the indriyas, then the indriyas themselves cannot perform any action. So it is essentially the mind which guides the indriyas to perform the action. So if the mind is not present when the indriyas are ready to perform action, then the action is not performed. So for instance, if we are looking at a book, but if the mind is not connected with the eyes, then we might be looking at the book, but then we will not get the knowledge that I'm looking at the book, right? So the mind has to be present. So we have seen that several times. Like we might be sitting in a class and the teacher might be saying something, but if our mind is somewhere else, we're thinking about something else, then whatever the teacher is saying, it is not going into your head, because your thoughts are elsewhere. Your mind is not connected with your eyes. The same thing with the ears, the smell and taste, everything. Rupa rasa gandha sparshaha, all of them, your mind has to be connected with the indriyas for the indriyas to function properly. So, and we said that the mind has 3 components, right? So how does the mind function? So I actually have kind of created this kind of a mind map to show you how the indriyas function with the help of the mind. So essentially we have the jivatma, which is the unit consciousness. That is the first layer. And then after that we have the antakaranam, or the mind, right? The antakaranam, which has 3 components: mahat tattva, aham tattva and chitta. Mahat tattva, aham tattva and chitta. So chitta is the first layer, which is interacting with the external world. Chitta is the one that interacts with the indriyas, with the jnanendriyas and karmendriyas. So the jnanendriyas is rupa rasa gandha sparsha, the ears, eyes, nose, tongue, right, and your skin. Those are the jnanendriyas. And then we have the 5 karmendriyas: mouth, hands, legs, excretory organs, reproductive organs. So these are the karmendriyas. So what happens is that when we want to actually, let's say that we want to look at an object in the world, like for instance we want to look at the book with the help of our eyes, then this chitta, which is the movie screen, it's like a movie screen, and it's a movie screen of the mind. So the chitta, so first of all, the first layer is, even before chitta can see the book or see an external object, first there is this aham tattva, which is called as the doer eye, and the chitta is called as the done eye. So aham tattva, which is the doer eye, and aham tattva wants to see a book, right? Aham tattva wants to see a book. I want to see a book. So when the aham tattva decides to see a book, then the chitta comes in contact with the indriyas. So like, if for instance, if I want to look at a book, so the same thing can be done with your ears, nose. Like if I want to hear something, or if I want to smell something, or if I want to taste something, right? It's the same process. So for instance, now if I want to use my eyes to look at a book, an external object, which is the book, so then what happens, this movie screen of the mind, chitta, comes in contact with the Gyanendriyas, and then the Gyanendriyas, what happens, the Gyanendriyas, they pick up the tanmatras. So the book has tanmatras. So tanmatras are the microscopic fraction of a wave radiated from the external object, right? So from the book, the microscopic fraction of a wave radiated, those tanmatras. So we have 5 tanmatras for each of the rupa rasa gandha sparsha. For each of the gunas we have 5 tanmatras. So we have rupa tanmatra, rasa tanmatra, gandha tanmatra, and the sparsha tanmatra. So and also shabda tanmatra. So if you're looking at a book, then it is a rupa tanmatra. If it is a sound, then it is a shabda tanmatra. If it is taste, it is rasa tanmatra. So like that. So from the object, the tanmatras, the relevant tanmatras are picked up by the Jnanendriyas. The Jnanendriyas receive the tanmatras from the object. So now if you're looking at a book with the help of the eyes are the Jnanendriya. So the Jnanendriya will pick up the rupa tanmatra from the book, and it passes on the tanmatra to the chitta. So through the relevant nerves, the efferent nerves, what happens is that through the optic nerves, so the tanmatras are actually received by the chitta, which is like the movie screen. So what the chitta will do, it will take the image of the book. The chitta will take the image of the book. So it receives the tanmatras and takes the shape of the book. It takes the image of the book. So once the chitta takes the image of the book, then the aham tattva will see the book. So aham tattva will see the book. So aham tattva, chitta, indriyas, and the external object, these are all working kind of hand in hand, right? So this aham tattva and the chitta and the jnanendriyas, everything, all of this are able to function only because you have this mahat tattva. The mahat tattva is the feeling of I exist, or the knowledge of the self. So if only when you have this feeling that I exist, then you will be able to take any of these actions. If you don't have that feeling of I exist, then the aham tattva or the chitta will not be able to do any of the actions. So this is how the layers are, and how this jivatma and how this maham tattva and mahat tattva, all of these are connected. That is what we are going to be talking about further. So with this picture should be very clear in your mind. This is very important to understand, because we will be talking about this over and over in several of the karapatras. So is this clear? Do you have any questions?
It's clear.
Okay. So yeah, so this is how it is. So I want to actually so that is the power of the mind, right? So the mind actually sees. It's the power of the mind actually sees. So if a person is under anesthesia, right? So even if the eyes are fine, right, my eyes are perfectly working fine, even then I will not be able to see the book, because in that situation nothing can actually be seen. So the mind has to be active. So it is actually the mind that sees the book. So how is this happening? So as I was saying, if you look at a book, the light is reflected from the book and arrives at the eye, right, which provides the visual information to the brain, feeding the mind, right? The mind is located in the brain, so this visual information is fed to the mind, right? So the mind and brain are not the same thing, right? The mind is primarily located in the brain, right, which is the primary seat of the mind. The brain is the primary seat of the mind. So as I was saying, even if the eyes are closed, one can see a book in one's mind, right? We always, through our mind, we can go anywhere, any part of the world, we can see anything, right? So we have that kind of power. Even if the indriyas, even if you're not using the indriyas, just with the mind you can see a book. So one does not have to see a book only using one's eyes, right? So if you're going to look at a book outside, right, let's say the book is on the table and you're going to look at the book, then the eyes are needed. So if you're imagining the book in your mind, then the eyes are not needed. But if you're looking at a book, external object which is on the table, then you need your eyes. So after having seen the book on the table, so even if you close your eyes, you can still recreate the book from memory in your own mind, right? Whether we see it using our eyes or from memory, there is something we are seeing that is not directly done by the eyes, uh, right? So the evidence for that is we can see with the eyes also closed, right? So that means to say the indriya, we don't need the indriyas for seeing the book, if for imagining the book in our mind. So what we are actually seeing is a portion of the mind taking the form of the book, that is called as the chitta. Chitta takes the shape of the book or the form of the book. A portion of the mind takes the form of whatever we see, hear, smell, taste or touch, right? All the senses provide information to the chitta, which takes the shape of all these things, right? There has to be an entity that sees the book, right? So when chitta takes the shape of the book, which is the entity that sees the book, right? I am seeing the book. Which is the entity that sees the book? That is the aham tattva, right? The aham tattva sees the book on the chitta. Chitta is like the movie screen, and aham tattva is watching the book, right? Not the book outside. Aham tattva is looking at the book that is there on the chitta. So aham tattva is seeing the mental image of the book. Chitta is like the movie screen of the mind, like a three-dimensional movie screen, and it is projecting the taste, smell, sound, sight and touch, and all the sensory information is experienced by the aham tattva, right? So aham tattva is the experiencer. Aham tattva is the experiencer, so that's why we call it as a doer I, while the chitta is the experienced I, is the experience I, or we call it as the done I, right? So the doer I is aham tattva, which gives directions to the karmendriya and experiences the perceptions of jnanendriya via the chitta. The chitta takes the form of whatever the aham tattva wants to see, hear or touch, right? So aham tattva is the one that is in control. It is giving the directions. So all the experiences of the mind are experienced by the aham tattva via the chitta. So the chitta is also called as antakarana. All of them put together, they're called as antakarana, right? So there is actually another part of the mind in addition to the these two, this one aham tattva and chitta. There is another part of the mind which is called as the mahat tattva, which gives the feeling of I, right? This is the mahat tattva, the feeling, I feeling, the self awareness that I am here, right? When someone is doing anything, right, they not only perform the action but also they know they are performing the action. When I'm performing the action, I know that I'm performing the action, right? So I always have this awareness that I exist, I know, I am seeing, I have that I feeling, right? So without that I feeling, you cannot say I am seeing, right? To say I am seeing, you need to first be aware of your existence, right? I am seeing is actually done by the aham tattva. So human beings, due to the developed mahat tattva, have a developed I feeling, and they become the doers of their actions, right? They become the doers of their actions. So when you look at animals, although animals have chitta and aham tattva, but they have a dormant mahat tattva. Most animals have dormant mahat tattva, and they do not know that they exist or are performing actions, whereas we know we are performing actions, and that's why we become the doers of our actions. Animals, they do not know that they exist and are or they are performing actions because they do not have a developed mahat tattva. So animals do not recognize themselves in the mirror, right? For most animals, they will not recognize themselves in the mirror. If they're standing in front of the mirror, it's not like they're going to recognize themselves. They exist, but they're not aware of it. The most aware animals, like apes, right, they show the beginnings of the self awareness, right, recognizing themselves in a mirror and reacting. But however, human beings have a more developed mahat tattva, making them aware of their existence and also actions. Thus they become the doers of their actions. So without this Mahatattva, the feeling of I, the feeling of self-existence, or the knowledge of the self, no action actually can be performed. So Mahatattva is very important. Without Mahatattva, Aham Tattva cannot instruct the Chitta to take the Tanmatras from the object. So essentially the Mahatattva is very important. Mahatattva is not doing anything, but its presence is required for the Aham Tattva to give the instructions and for the Aham Tattva to do the action, right? Animals act. When you look at animals act, but are not the doers of their actions, as everything is guided by the Prakriti. Prakriti guides the animals, and therefore they are not the doers of their actions, right? Human beings, when you look at human beings, they are the doers. They experience the results of their actions, right? So because they have a developed Mahatattva, they become the experiencer of the actions. So the collective of the Chitta, Aham Tattva and Mahatattva, that actually forms the mind or the Antakarana. So the inner psychic force, it's called inner psychic force. So this is what is the mind's anatomy. There are three parts: Mahatattva, Aham Tattva and Chitta. How they all work together with the Indriyas to get us the jnana, to give us the knowledge of the external object. We saw that, right? So so like if you look at it, like animals also think about things in their own way, right? Depending on what type of animal, they have their own development of ability to think, right? So Aham Tattva is the doer I. Aham Tattva is what that is thinking, right? Mahat Tattva gives the awareness of that I. It is the feeling, the I feeling. It does not do anything. Mahat Tattva is not doing anything. It is just the I feeling, the awareness that I exist, I am here. That is all it does. It does not do anything else, right? The Aham Tattva does everything, but because of the Mahat Tattva being awakened and being fully developed in a human being, it gives us far more capacity to the Aham Tattva. So the Aham Tattva is able to think far more clearly, analyze things, consider things which animals are unable to do, right? So the desire to see a book, right, arises in the Aham Tattva, right? The Mahat Tattva does not have any desires. The Chitta only takes the shape of those things. Aham Tattva has all the desires, and everything is done by the Aham Tattva, right? That's why Aham Tattva is the doer I. It does everything. It experiences. It is the doer of the actions, and it is the experiencer of the actions, right? So the desire for the infinite is also in the Aham Tattva. The desire for the infinite is in the Aham Tattva, because even though the presence of Mahatattva is no doubt required, right? But the desire for the infinite is in Aham Tattva. The Aham Tattva is the one that when you do the sadhana, when you do anything, you do it with the Aham Tattva. But because of that feeling of I exist, that gives that Aham Tattva so much more qualities that it would not have otherwise had, right? So Mahatattva is like a sakshi. It's like a witness. Mahatattva is like a witness, but there is actually multiple layers, right? So when you look at a book, the I is the sakshi of the book, right? I is the witnessing entity of the book, right? And the I is the witness of that book, and then the optical nerves is the sakshi of the I, right? The optical nerves is the witnessing entity of the eyes, and then the optical nerves becomes then the observed is the I. Then the optical nerves becomes the observed I, and the observer or the sakshi or the witness is the optical nerve. So the optical nerve is the sakshi, and the eye becomes the that which is being observed. And then if you step back, then chitta becomes the sakshi of the optical nerve, and then ultimately the Aham Tattva becomes a sakshi of the chitta. The Aham Tattva is watching the chitta all the time. The chitta is this movie screen. is constantly taking shape of different things. Chitta continuously keeps taking shape from one thing after another, right? Is taking the shape of different things. So whatever we are doing, like whatever we are thinking, everything, the form is being taken in the chitta, and aham tattva is actually watching all of those things. And then if you take one step further back, the mahat tattva is the sakshi of the aham tattva. So it is like a multi-layer system, right? It's just like a plantain flower, right? The kadali pushpam, kadali pushpam, you have multiple layers. So you peel one layer after one layer after layer, right? You have the mahat tattva, then you have the aham tattva, then you have the chitta, then you have the nerves, then you have the indriyas, then you have the actual physical organs, and then you have the external object, right? Like that. If you go outward, that is how it is. But if you go inward, then the outermost layer will be the eyes, and then you'll go one by step in inner, you'll go inside, and finally you will see what is the ultimate entity that you'll see, which is the ultimate witnessing entity, that which is not being witnessed by anything else. That will become the Brahma, that will become the consciousness. That is what we're going to see further, right? That will become the consciousness. Okay, so we actually read up till paragraph, the last paragraph on page yeah, we actually read up till on the page 4. We have to actually start with tanmatra. Chandramouli Modi, do you want to take it? Tanmatra is a new term.
Tanmatra, is it? Okay, Mahoday. Apologies.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, Mahoday. I'm seeing the slide.
Oh, okay. I have to present the screen. 1 second. Sorry. Can you see now?
It's loading, Mahoday.
Is it
Yeah,
visible?
Mahoday, I can. Yeah, I can now.
Okay.
Okay. Tanmatra is a new term and should be explained. The microscopic fraction of a wave radiated from an object and received by the indriyas is called tanmatra or inference. To explain this further, it can be said that the idea of a book is grasped with the help of rupa tanmatra. The ideatory mental vibration of the nerves creates an image or figure in the mind when one looks at the book. But if the eyes are closed, or if one is in a dark place, one can still recognize the book by touch. Here the idea of book is assimilated due to another tanmatra, that is the tanmatra of touch or tactual perception. Again, if someone drops a book out of sight or out of reach, it is possible to identify it as a book through the auditory tanmatra. So, chitta comes in contact with tanmatras only when aham tattva wants it to. The act of looking at or identifying the book must be done by aham tattva, as chitta by itself does not possess the capacity to perform any function. When aham tattva, or part of the mind which works wants to see a book, chitta comes in contact with the organs of sight, that is the eyes. The eyes receive the rupa tanmatra from the book. This tanmatra, which is always present in the environment in the form of waves, strikes against the chitta through the eyes, which form a sort of door to bring chitta in contact with the outside world. So chitta then takes the shape of the book, and aham tattva identifies or sees it as per the shape which chitta has taken. Similarly, when aham tattva wants to hear something, it puts chitta in contact with the organs of hearing, the ears. Ears receives the sound tanmatra, which is always present in the sorry, Mahoday, I can't see the next slide. Sorry, still it's yeah, always present in the physical environment through the medium of sound waves. Chitta, on the impact of this tanmatra, becomes the sound itself, and aham tattva hears that sound. This shows that chitta takes the form of whatever aham tattva desires or does. To put it in another way, chitta manifests the actions which aham tattva performs. Okay. So, do you want me to continue more here, or
No, can you explain what has been said in this paragraph?
okay, Mohan. So we learned about the new word called tanmatra, and in this tanmatra, what I understood was that chitta will act like, will is connected to many tanmatras in order to um, receive the inputs. So we can call, I mean, if I'm translating that in my mind, those are all like input devices connected to a computer, let's say. So those are getting those inputs, into the system, but the processing happens by the chitta. So the chitta comes in contact, receives those inputs and shows it, but then aham tattva is the one which actually processes it and sees it however it wants to. So so even though the data is already present, I mean, all this, for example, a book is present, unless the aham tattva wants to see it, um, the tanmatras don't process it. And I mean, it's not, even though it's ready and equipped to receive those inputs and show it to on the chitta, unless aham tattva desires or aham tattva wants it, it will not be processed further. So these two are connected in a way that, let's say, if I want to see the book, then the tanmatra of the eyes gets into action, receives that through the through the waves in form of light, presents it onto the chitta, and that will be processed further by the aham chitta. Similarly, a book which has not been seen, let's say, for example, that's not the only indriya which can give the input. For example, just by hearing a sound, so probably, let's say, if there is a dog barking, at a far off distance, I may not touch, feel, or even see the dog, but by hearing it, I can get that image from through that particular chitta of the sound, which then my mind or aham tattva translates it and sees the image that is required. So aham tattva is kind of probably the program or the processor which actually reads all these inputs and that's the way it's been programmed to.
Yeah. Yes. Nicely said. And yes, Mahodaya. Yes, that is the idea over here, right? So chitta actually directly does not receive the tanmatras from the object. Chitta receives the tanmatras via the indriyas, via the jnanendriyas. But I just wanted to clarify that point. Otherwise, yes, nicely said, Mahodaya. So yeah, so that is the idea over here. So the mind is only one, right? And it can think of only one thing at a time. We actually talked about this even previously. So the mind is one and can only think about one thing at a time, right? The chitta can only take one shape at a time, right? If somebody is listening to something, at that time that person is very focused on what the other person is saying, right? And they're not going to be seeing something. So when I'm listening and I'm not going to be seeing something, because the mind can only do one thing at a time, right? And when they are seeing something and they're focused on seeing that, then they're not going to be hearing what somebody is speaking, right? So then it becomes very, very focused on something, right? It requires, so to become very focused on something, it requires, and if one can sustain that, then that is actually concentration. So like when you have a focused for instance, you have an object in front of you and you're looking only at that object, it's a very, very focused thing, and you're very focusing your attention on that particular thing. So that is actually what is called as concentration. So if one can sustain this focus, right, for for considerable period of time, then it is called concentration. So if in one moment someone is touching something and then seeing something and then hearing something and then smelling something or tasting something, then the mind becomes very scattered, right? So the experience with any one of them is very, very shallow. When people say they're trying to do multitasking, right, doing one this and doing this, that, this and this, right? So then the experience with all of them becomes very, very shallow, because actually speaking, mind cannot do multitasking. Mind can only do one thing at a time. We think that because we're processing so fast, the capacity of the mind to process things is very, very fast. We're thinking the mind is multitasking, but no, while the mind is not multitasking, it is only doing one thing at a time, right? So one of the benefits, actually not the goal, but a benefit of sadhana is that mind gets trained in becoming concentrated and one pointed to spiritual practice, right? So that is one of the main benefit. It's not, even though it is not the goal of sadhana, but the benefit of sadhana is that you're training your mind to become concentrated and become one pointed, right? And this quality is naturally conferred upon the mind in whatever it does, right? Even when not engaged in sadhana. So when you're doing sadhana for a for a considerable period of time, then what happens is that you're training your mind and the mind becomes very, very concentrated. So even when you're not doing sadhana, even at that point in time, your mind is single pointed, right? So it is able to concentrate on a particular thing at that. So when your mind becomes so trained like that, then when you're doing one thing, you're fully focused on that particular thing, and you're doing it with full efficiency, and then you move on to the next thing, right? So that is how your mind gets very, very trained. Thus one becomes able to concentrate even on mundane tasks for hours at a time without being distracted, right? Thanks to the yogic the training in yogic sadhana. So without that training, you become so focused, you become extremely focused in whatever you're doing. So then you're also very, very efficient, right? You don't get distracted by things. When you have one thing at a particular in front of you, you are so focused on it. So Hamsini Bagni can understand. So if she's studying for a particular exam, then she's only focused on that. She's not thinking about something else, right? So that is the benefit of doing sadhana. You're actually training your mind to be trained, like as students we might have all experienced, or even otherwise when you're reading a book, right? So we might have read one particular line even 10 times and still not understood the meaning, right? Because you're not focused, you're actually, your mind is somewhere else, right? So we might be reading the same line again and again and again, but still not understood what it's saying. That is because you were distracted by other things, right? Something else was going in your mind and you were not distracted. So when you are engaged in this yogic sadhana, the mind becomes very, very concentrated. So whatever task that you're doing, you're just so focused on the task. So without that such training, the chitta will take the shape of whatever the ahankara directs it to do. So if you don't have that kind of training in sadhana, then what happens is that mind will just wander, right? So whatever the chitta, whatever the ahankara wants, whatever the ego, aham tattva is nothing but the ego. Whatever the ego wants, the chitta will keep following the direction and keep running after object. It will keep going from this and that, right? It will not go in a systematic manner. It is not, you're not having that concentrated thinking. So for instance, if someone is drinking coffee and getting daily caffeine, the mind actually becomes more rajasic, right? It becomes very, very agitated. So consequently the chitta will shift from one thing to another without sustained concentration. So if the mind is very rajasic, then you can't have focused attention on a particular thing. It will just be shifting attention from one thing to another. So this kind of behavior is reflected in their actions, and that is why we give a lot of importance to the sattvic ahara. The chitta takes on whichever information the ahankara wants it, directs it to do, right? So chitta is just it just follows instructions of the aham tattva. So thus maintaining concentration is one thing, on one thing, right? Maintaining concentration on one thing at a time is very, very crucial. So one moment somebody is touching something, and then the next moment somebody is seeing something, next moment hearing something, smelling something, tasting something, right? Then it just becomes like a khichdi, right? You're doing every minute, you're changing something, right? It just becomes khichdi, and then one does not get deep experience from any of that, right? So ultimately one of the benefits, and not the goal, one of the benefits of sadhana is that the mind gets training in becoming concentrated and one pointed, right? So that is through spiritual sadhana. So that naturally confers that quality is naturally conferred upon the mind in whatever it does, even when it is not doing sadhana. So you're able to like concentrate even in mundane work. So otherwise chitta will be like running after different things, right? So uh, so yeah, that is what I actually wanted to tell over here. uh, any questions at this point?
Yes, Moday. I mean, I have a question. Um, because there are certain tasks where it becomes a second nature, and you don't even focus on it, but keep doing it. For example, like driving, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's, changing the gears and things. You don't even focus on that. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
So in such cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we saying that there is another layer, or aham tattva doesn't get involved? Or I know I'm taking a very materialistic example here, but in order for me to understand, sometimes while I'm driving, all I'm seeing
Yeah.
is the road in front of me and processing that information. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be hearing as well, and in such instances, I don't even sometimes remember the changing the gear, or but I would have done that. In such cases, how does it work more than in this instance? Like,
Yeah, in that case also the aham tattva is actually involved. It is involved because it is actually operating from memory, right? So if it is something new that you're seeing, then if you're looking for the first time, then you can understand that the aham tattva is fully involved and the chitta is also involved. Everything is involved. You're able to realize that. But where you have activities that you've been doing again and again, like a routine, right? Even in those instances the aham tattva and chitta, everything is involved, but because you are so used to that particular activity, you've been doing it for a very long period of time, so it just becomes like a second nature and you're doing it. You are feeling that you're not giving it attention, but without your knowledge you're still giving it the attention.
oh, okay. So
Yeah,
still the
even
aham tattva,
yes,
plays. So even
yes,
say, for example, like um, playing an instrument, right?
yeah,
You can't process that information and play, because then that completely it doesn't happen over a period of time. Once we practice, it becomes a second nature, and with minimal interruption, we'll be
yeah,
playing that, because it appears as if the hands are doing the magic, or let's say playing a piano or a guitar or whatever it is. So
yeah,
you're saying that the aham tattva still gets involved, but with the help of
yeah.
memory.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, so if the aham tattva was not involved, and if you're just trying to just as I was saying that if you're looking at a book, and if your
Mm-hmm.
mind is not connected with the indriyas, then
Right.
even though you might be looking at the book, still you may not get the knowledge of the book, right? You might be looking at it, but
Right.
still the mind is not processing the book. In the same way, if your mind is not involved with that activity of playing piano, so then
Mm-hmm.
in that case, you would not be playing what you wanted to play,
Right.
right? Or if your mind is, if you let's say that you're trying to, let's say you're trying to drive the car, right? And your mind
Mm-hmm.
is not, the mind is not involved, and your mind is thinking about something, that is when you get into accidents, right? Because
Yeah.
your mind is not concentrating on the particular thing. So on the other hand, the reason why you're not getting somebody is not getting involved in accident is because your mind is involved in that particular activity, right? If your mind is not involved, if your aham tattva and chitta, all of that is not involved, then if your mind is somewhere else, there is every possibility you get into an accident, right? Even though you might be actually holding the steering wheel,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
So
Mother. Yeah.
so the mind is involved in all of these activities. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we can move
Dhanyavad,
forward.
Mother.
Yeah. So Hamsini Bagni, do you want to read, or you're only listening?
I'm only listening for today. My throat hasn't fully recovered.
I can't hear you properly, Bagni. Can you speak up?
I'm listening for today because my throat still hurts a little.
I can read.
Oh, is it? Okay, okay. Sorry, you can read?
Huh.
Who?
Hello?
Oh, you can read?
Sharda.
Okay. Oh, Sharda Bagni. Okay, yeah, please go ahead. The next one.
I joined a bit late.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is this paragraph that says
It has
that
already
it
been
has
explained.
already been explained. It has already been explained that Chitta, Aham Tattva and Mahatattva, Buddhattva,
Buddhi Tattva.
Tattva constitute the mind. So Chitta only has capacity to take the form which aham tattva wants. Similarly, aham tattva, just 1 second, laptop computers have gone, so I'm just using this mobile only. I'll just auto rotate. Sorry, 1 second. It should work now. Oh yes, okay.
Can you see?
Similarly,
Similarly. Yeah.
It can only work. There must be something to make it work. That something is Maha Tattva or Buddhi Tattva, which gives one the feeling of I. This feeling of I is derived from the mind, and this I in the mind makes Aham Tattva and Chitta perform their respective functions. Without the I, it's not possible to feel or see a book, even if under the influence of Aham Tattva, Chitta takes the shape of the book. But then this I is only a part of the mind. That is, there is another I which is possessing I, or the I which knows that there is a mind. The existence of I in the mind only proves that there is another real entity which is beyond mind and which knows the existence of mind. This I, which is the witnessing entity and witnesses the existence of the mind, witnessing the existence of the mind and the existence of Buddhi Tattva, or the feeling of I, is called Atman or unit consciousness.
Atman.
Through introspection and Atman, or unit consciousness. Sorry. Thus, through introspection and concentrated thinking, one observes that Atman and mind, unit consciousness and mind, are two separate entities.
Do you want to
explain too clear with some of these terms?
Okay. So, So, in that case, Pushpalata Bhagini, do you want to explain?
It has already. It has been explained that Chitta, Aham Tattva, and Mahatattva or Buddhi Tattva constitute mind. So now Chitta only has the capacity to take the form which Aham Tattva wants. Similarly, Aham Tattva only has the capacity of performing actions, and something must be there to make it perform the action, and that something is this Mahatattva, is done by the Mahatattva or the Buddhi Tattva, which takes the feeling of I. That is but then this I is only a part of the mind. So actually the I is derived from the mind, and I in the mind makes Aham Tattva and Chitta perform their respective functions. Without this I, it is not possible to see the even under the influence of Mahatattva. Now Chitta takes the shape of the book, but then the I only makes it, but then only the I is a part of the mind, and the I, which is the processing. There is another one I also, which does the processing, which is the possessing I, and that I then which knows that there is a mind. The existing of I in the mind only proves that there is another real entity which is beyond mind, and which knows the existence of mind. This I, which is a witnessing entity and witnesses the existence of mind and the existence of buddhitva, or the feeling, is called the aham atman, or the unit consciousness. So there are this, apart from the chitta, the summarizing of this, apart from chitta, which is acted upon by the aham tattva, and the aham tattva which perform the actions with the ma tattva or the I, there is another one I which actually exists and knows about the mind, and this is called the Atman or the unit consciousness or the Brahma. So the mind, as we see that there are two unit consciousness, and I mean there is one unit consciousness and the mind are two separate entities. That is the Atman and the mind. That's what I understood.
Yes, Bhagini, nicely said. Nicely said. So I think I want to actually show that slide one more time, because Sharada Bhagini, I just watch. I'm going to show you the slide so that the terms actually become clear to you. Right? So you said you're not familiar with the terms. So here is the thing. So Hamsini Bhagini, I want you also to look at this slide. So you have this box over here. This is the mind. There are three components, right? The Mahat Tattva, Aham Tattva, and the Chitta. Right? The three components of the mind. And here we have the Indriyas. We have 5 sense organs and 5 organs of action. Right? The sense organs are called as the Jnanendriyas, which is the ears, skin, eyes, tongue, and nose. Right? And the Karmendriyas are your hands, legs, mouth, excretory organs, and reproductive organs. Right? So these three components of the mind, the Mahat Tattva, Aham Tattva, and Chitta, they are called as Antakaranam. Right? They are called as Antakaranam. The Mahat Tattva is the I feeling. Right? You have the feeling I exist. You have that feeling, right? I that feeling that you have. That is the knowledge of the self. That is called as the Mahat Tattva. Right? Called as the Mahat Tattva. So we will not use the term Buddhi Tattva. We will only use the term Mahat Tattva. Right? And then the Aham Tattva. Aham Tattva is actually the doer of actions. It is the doer of actions. Any action that I do, like for instance, if I want to see a book, if I want to hear something, if I want to smell something, if I want to taste something, if I want to do something with my hands, anything that you do, it is the Aham Tattva which actually decides that I want to do this. When Aham Tattva decides to do something, right, then what happens is, like for instance, if Aham Tattva wants to see a book, that book is outside. It's outside, it's an external object, right? The book that is on the table. That is this book that is on the table. So then what happens is that Aham Tattva decides I want to see the book. When Aham Tattva decides I want to see the book, and Aham Tattva then instructs the Chitta, which is the movie screen. It's like a movie screen. So the Chitta, what the Chitta does is, on the instruction of the Aham Tattva, the Chitta will come in contact with the eyes, because the eyes are the one that can look at the book. Chitta will come in contact with the Jnanendriya, that is the eyes. Then what the eyes will do is, it will receive the tanmatras from the book. What are tanmatras? They're just like a wave, microscopic fraction of a wave which is radiated from the book, right? The wave that is radiated from the book through light, that tanmatra is received by the eye, right? And what the eyes do is they pass on that information, that tanmatra, through the optic nerves to the Chitta, right? The Chitta receives the tanmatras from the eyes, and it just projects the image of the book it takes the image of the book on itself. The Chitta is like a movie screen, right? So it receives the tanmatras, the information through the optic nerves, and it projects the image of the book. That is, it not project, actually takes the shape of the book. It just takes the shape of the book. Whatever it is, the Chitta will take the shape of the book, or it will become like the sound, or it will become like the smell, or it will become like the taste, right? So whatever we are dealing with, it just becomes like that. So it takes the shape of the book. And when Chitta takes the shape of the book, then the Aham Tattva will actually see the book, right? All of this is not possible without the Mahat Tattva. Without the feeling of I exist, we can't do any of this action. right? So the aham tattva is the experiencer. Any experience, right? Any desire, any experience is done by the aham tattva. It does that experience with the help of the chitta, which is the movie screen. Whatever we are doing, the chitta will become like that, and the aham tattva will see the book, or will hear the sound, or will taste something. Everything the aham tattva actually does with the help of the chitta. So this is the mind, right? This is the external world. So we can say this is internal to us. This is internal to us. External to us is this. We have the the eyes and everything. All the indriyas are facing outwards. So we have external objects which we are receiving. So beyond this mind, there is another entity. There is another I, which is the pure I, and that is the jivatma, which is the unit consciousness. This is the ultimate witnessing entity. It is witnessing everything. So it is witnessing the mahat tattva, it is witnessing the aham tattva, it is witnessing everything. So but its direct witness, it is directly witnessing the mahat tattva. So the jivatma is witnessing the mahat tattva, the mahat tattva is witnessing the aham tattva is witnessing the chitta is witnessing the jnanendriyas, and jnanendriyas, they are observing the objects of the world. So is this clear now? Sharada Bhagini? Hari Om. Sharada Bhagini, are you there? Is this clear? Okay, Hamsini Bhagini, is this clear for you?
Yes.
Are you able?
Yes.
Okay. You understand this, right?
Mostly.
Okay. Is there any questions that you have?
No, really.
Can you speak up? I'm not able to hear you.
Not really.
Okay. So I'm thinking Sharada Bhagini also understood, I'm thinking. So we will actually go ahead with our...
Can I ask a question, or do you want me to park it to the end?
Just 1 second, Mahodaya. Sharada Bhagini, you were saying something? Sharada Bhagini, can you say what were you saying? Okay, Chandramouli Mahodaya, kripya.
Yeah, Mahodaya. Mahodaya, I keep hearing this term called...
I think the microphone was muted.
Okay, what were you saying? You understood?
Yes, fine. Thank you.
Okay. Chandramouli Mahodaya, kripya.
Yeah, Mahodaya. Mahodaya, I keep hearing the term subconscious mind, right? Which kind of... So, is there a mapping of the subconscious mind to one of these three? Is it...
Subconscious mind, is it? Okay,
yeah.
Actually, I have to find out the answer for that. I don't know how the subconscious mind is mapped with this. So I have to find out the answer for that. Yeah, a good question.
I was trying to map that to either aham tattvam or the mahatattvam. So just wanted to understand.
So subconscious mind. So subconscious mind. Oh yes, your question is which component of the mind it belongs to? Subconscious mind.
Mahodaya. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, some people say that there is no such thing called subconscious mind, but I keep reading books and hearing a lot of things about this. So I just wanted to see if there was any such mapping, and if it is one of these tattvams that explains it. Okay.
Yeah, let me find out the answer for that. I don't want to give you wrong answer, so let me find out the answer for that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
So okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so over here, so in this paragraph, right? So just 1 second. So so the chitta has the capacity to take the form of whatever the aham tattva wants it to, right? So aham tattva is the only one that actually performs the action, so it does the work, but there is something which makes it to do the work, right? And that is the mahatattva. So mahatattva actually does not actually do anything, but just the presence of the mahatattva makes the aham tattva do the work, right? So if mahatattva is not there, then the aham tattva will not be able to do any work. So I need to have the feeling of I exist before I can do any work. So that is derived from the mahatattva, the feeling of I. So you know, so it is actually a reflection of the infinite consciousness. It's the reflection of the infinite consciousness, and that is what is you know, is appearing as the mahatattva. So the mahatattva, that is what causes the aham tattva to perform action by you know, trying to seek the infinite or finite or whatever it is, right? That so it is the mahatattva that is the cause of aham tattva to actually do some action. So this mahatattva is also part of the mind. So when we think about it, when we say that there is aham tattva, there is this mind, then you know, who has the awareness that there is there in the mind, right? So it is ultimately the atma, which is the ultimate consciousness that is actually even experiencing the mind, right? Because there is something that is saying, oh, this mind is there, it is acting like this, right? So what is it that's actually experiencing the mind? So it is the atma, right? So chitta has a capacity, it has tremendous capacity, and it can just do the designated task, right? It can take the shape of whatever the aham tattva wishes it to take, and the aham tattva does all kinds of work. You know, it thinks through all kinds of problems, it does all kinds of things constantly through the day, right? But the inspiration that it gets, that swatantra ichha, that free will, is conferred by that I feeling of the mahat tattva, right? The free will is conferred by the I feeling of the mahat tattva. So the aham tattva, it has, you know, tremendous and varied capacity for different types of activities. So that is increased by the orders of magnitude by the virtue of having an awakened mahat tattva, which is fully developed in human beings. In human beings, we have a fully developed mahat tattva, and because of that, you know, all of this is actually possible. So in lesser developed beings, whether it is a single celled organism or an insect or a worm, or you know, a leopard or a dog, or even a tree, these it is not having a fully developed mahat tattva. They don't have that awareness of what they are doing, right? And they are guided by their inborn instincts, right? The sahajat vritti. So instead of being inspired by the mahat tattva, which confers the faculty of free will and the ability to consider you know, all kinds of dimensions to action, and give the quality of viveka, discrimination, and also to understand, that is essentially to understand what is right and what is wrong. Other beings do not have those faculties because of the lack of development of mahat tattva, which consequently limits their ability of their aham tattva in many ways. So in human beings, because we have a fully developed mahat tattva, the aham tattva has a tremendous capacity of doing different things. Whereas in animals, they don't have fully developed mahat tattva, and in many animals there is no mahat tattva. So therefore the aham tattva is limited, right, in terms of what it can do. So in animals, it becomes, aham tattva gets guided by inborn instincts, and in the case of least developed creatures like one-celled organisms, then the inborn instincts are directly acting on the chitta. So because of the inborn instincts, it is directly acting on the chitta. So but for human, not only do we have a feeling that I am, but also we have a feeling that I know that I am, right? So it is not just I am, but I know that I am. And people talk about, like, you know, my mind has got spoiled, mera man kharab ho gaya hai, or you know, those kind of things they say, right? And they keep saying my mind, right? They talk about my mind, right? Mera man, mama manaha, So we say there's my mind. So this mind, my, who is this my, right? Who is this my, right? Who can say this is my mind, right? There must be some other entity other than the mind to say this is my mind. When we say my mind, so we are referring to some other entity which is saying that this is my mind, right? When I say my book, so then I know it is my book, right? So if I say this is Shyam says this is my book, so then we know the Shyam is the entity to whom this book belongs. Like that, if I say my mind, who is that entity to whom this mind belongs? And that entity is the Atma. That entity is the Atma, which says it's my mind. Just like my hand, it's my mind. So that is given, that awareness, that knowledge that I have a mind, that knowledge that I have a mind is because of the Jnatra Satta. The Jnatra Satta is the Atma. This Jnatra Satta is the Sakshi Satta, is the witnessing entity. It is witnessing the mind. It is the witnessing entity of the mind, and that is the Atma. So in this way, we come to know that Jivatma and the mind are two separate entities. Right? They're two separate entities. So when we look at the chart that I actually showed you, you can imagine like a kadali pushpam. You can imagine like a plantain flower, how there are multiple layers. So when you keep peeling one layer after one layer after one layer, then ultimately what is that entity that you have is the Brahma, is the witnessing entity, and all the other layers are outside of that. Those are all the superficial layers, but ultimately the Nitya Vastu is that Paramapurushaha, which is the consciousness, right? So that is what is actually explained in this paragraph, right? And any questions? Okay. So if no questions, I think the time is up. We will conclude the session over here, and we'll take it forward in the next class. Astu, धन्यवादः, नमस्कारः.
धन्यवादः महोदय.
धन्यवादः.
धन्यवादः.
धन्यवादः.